Thanks for joining me again today. Today's practice is going to be similar to some of the ones I did at first, the first videos I offered. We'll be doing a breathwork practice and also a restorative posture, and I'll be doing a reading while you're in the posture. Today I will be reading from Deborah Addle's book, The Yamas and the Niyamas. I will link to the book below, and I'll talk more about that when I get to it. If you can hear the music in the background, that's this Yoga Zone CD. I'll link to that below as well. And before we get started with the breath, I want to show you the prop setup for today. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible in terms of props that you can put together in your house at home. My preferred prop setup is, if you have one, a bolster and a block. So I was just showing you what that looks like. This is my rectangular bolster. I have one of my foam blocks underneath, and I'm putting it on a little bit of an elevated angle. When we do the pose, we're going to be doing a supported face down twist. We're going to be lying this way over the bolster. You don't have to do that yet. I'll completely set you up when we get to that. So if you have a bolster or a big rectangular couch or bed cushion like this, and then something you can elevate it with a little bit underneath, go ahead and go for the bolster. Now I'll set this aside, and then I'll show you my little alternate prop setup that I've come up with here. So this is basically a storage basket. It's a rough kind of straw one. And on top of that, I've stacked a few blankets, and you can see how my blankets are at a little bit of an angle. You can put more of an angle. So this is a little bit more squishy than my bolster, not quite as firm. I have a little mini pillow here that I put at top. So when I lie back on this stack, I get a similar effect here. So this will be the prop setup that I'll be using when I show you the pose. So for now, find a comfortable seat. I'm actually going to use my block so I can sit up on it. This is just going to give a little bit of height to my hips. Give me a comfortable seat for the breathing practice. Actually, this is feeling a little high to me, so I'm going to swap this out for the mini pillow. I'll use that. That's perfect. Okay, great. So we'll start our breathing practice. Today our breath practice is going to be Ujjayi breathing. So Ujjayi breathing, it's also known as victorious breath. Sometimes in yoga you'll hear it more colloquially referred to as ocean breathing or even Darth Vadar breath. So the reason why we use these names for Ujjayi is because it involves making a sound in the back of the throat. This is to engage a little bit more breath control. It's an interesting breath practice in that it can help us feel more energized during our practice. It's a breath that you can practice at any point during your yoga routine, so whether you're standing, seated, or lying down. And it can also help us feel more relaxed. So it has that nice paradoxical effect to it. The easiest way to learn Ujjayi is to practice as if you're trying to fog up a mirror or your glasses. So we'll do that in a moment, but first I always like to begin by cultivating or paying attention to our natural breath. So in your comfortable seat, your sits bones are seated on the floor. You might take your hands and sort of manually move everything out of the way, your muscles, your flesh, your tendons, so that you can have a firmer contact with the floor. By the way, I've left my socks on. You want to be warm when you're practicing breathing and restorative yoga, so you can wear anything that's nice and comfortable for you. So I'm starting to notice my natural, comfortable breath. Then as we start the Ujjayi breath, I'm going to put my hand up as my mock mirror or glasses. I'll breathe in. And as I breathe out through the mouth, I'm going to pretend I'm fogging up my mirror or glasses. Hopefully you're doing that along with me. So that's probably something you've done before, something similar, right? Once you get that sense, see if you can close your mouth, breathing in and out through the nose, but make that same little ha sound on the in-breath and on the out-breath if possible. So you may or may not be able to hear me. It's that little bit of a closing of the glottis at the back of the throat. Generally, when we're practicing, we want the breath to be loud enough that you can hear it, but not necessarily somebody across the room, especially not at our 6 feet social distance. So loud enough for you to hear it, not necessarily everyone else in the room. So try a few more like that. If you struggle with this breath, return to a natural, comfortable breath at any time. And your natural, comfortable breath in and out through the nose if that feels comfortable for you. If not, you can breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, or whatever way is comfortable to you. So take just a few more rounds of breath. I want to tell you a little bit more about the book that I'm going to be reading from today. And again, this is the Deborah Adel book, The Yamas and the Niyamas. So the Yamas and the Niyamas are ethical practices in yoga. They kind of tell us what we shouldn't do and what we should do, sort of commandments, but they're suggestions. So this is a beautiful book on the subject if you are interested and ever want to read it. The part that I'm going to be reading is from Tapas, or Self-Discipline, that starts on, I don't know what page it is, page 134 it looks like. So on page 134, and Tapas is one of the niyamas, or suggestions for what we should do, how we should live our lives. So I'll be coming back to that once I get you set up in the pose. Let's do about 1 or 2 more of that Ujjayi breaths if you've stuck with it all this time. And then you can either stay with that breath or return to a natural, comfortable breath as we move into the restorative pose. So this is a face down twist, as I mentioned, and we'll use our little prop setup that we already talked about. Since it's a twist, we're going to practice on one side and then we're going to switch to the other. So I'll do part of the reading and then I'll tell you to switch to the other side in your twist, so you don't have to keep track of that at all. Let's start on one side, and I'm just going to start. This is my right hip, so facing the camera, it's going to look like it's the left. This one side is going to just snuggle right up so that you're facing sideways. I'm perpendicular to my prop setup. And I'm going to take my knees, I'm going to bend them, and take my legs into sort of a pinwheel shape. Now your knees can be a little bit more stacked. They can be a little further apart, and with the top of one foot resting against, or the bottom of one foot resting against the thigh of the other leg. So you can play around with that and find what is comfortable. The important thing is that the hip is facing toward the prop setup, and then once you get your legs in a comfortable position, you'll turn your body toward the prop setup. Now I'm wearing my glasses so I can do the reading for you. If you have eyeglasses, I would recommend taking them off and setting them aside at this point. Once your torso is facing the prop setup, walk your hands out along the sides so that your torso can start to come down toward your props. And then you'll turn your head in one direction. So I'm turning my head right now in the direction of my knees toward you. And that's fine. That's a great place to rest. You can also see how it feels to turn your head in the opposite direction, away. So that's going to be more of a stretch on the neck. Some days that feels good to me and some days it doesn't. Right now it doesn't feel so great. So I'll stay like here for a moment. My arms are simply resting at the sides. And if there's some other place you prefer, closer to your body, more up, hands hugging your prop. So go ahead and spend a few moments adjusting yourself in this prop setup. Finding a place where you can release into your props, where your props are really supporting you. In restorative yoga, we are not working the muscles or anything else. We're allowing the props to be our supports, be the ground for us. So the ground is part of our prop. And then as you start to release into that, I'll start the reading from the yamas and the niyamas. So first, I'm going to skip around a little bit in this chapter on tapas. I want to read the part about the definition. Tapas literally means heat, and it can be translated as catharsis, austerities, self-discipline, spiritual effort, change, tolerance, or transformation. So then on the next page, she continues, whether we practice tapas by showing up at our mat for a regular posture practice, or through the constant acts of selfless service, we offer ourselves to the next highest version of us. We willingly stand the heat so that we might produce luscious bounty within our lives. This guideline not only speaks to personal effort, but also to those cathartic times of almost hopeless desperation when we find ourselves in the pain of unexpected loss or debilitating sickness, or in the throes of life that seems like it has been turned upside down. It is almost as if God has checked the winds and started the fire, and we ourselves are the field that is being burned. And like my husband who watched his father burn a field, none of this makes sense to us at the time. And yet it is these times that shape and mold us into someone of depth. Our debris gets burned away, and we are left more humbled and strengthened by the mystery of what is beyond our grasp of control or of understanding. It is in these darkest times of pain, loss, and confusion that weaves something profound in us. Spiritual teacher Ram Dass speaks eloquently to this jewel of tapas. When he experienced a debilitating stroke, something he never expected to happen to him, he found a new opportunity for himself and for others as he began to wrestle with the possibilities and effects of aging. He chose to speak of his experience as being stroked by God, rather than as having had a stroke. And he termed the phrase fierce grace to speak of the experience of being burned by the fire of divine love. There is a bumper sticker which states, "A crisis is a terrible thing to waste." We can chuckle all we want, but there is a great truth to this statement. Tapas can take us to the place where all of our resources are used up, where there is nothing left but weakness, where all of our so-called props have been taken away. It is in this barren place where we have exhausted all that we have, all that we are, that new strength is shaped and character is born if we choose to fearlessly open ourselves to the experience. It is perhaps the greatest gift life could offer us. So we'll begin to come out of the side. Use your hands to help lift your torso up. And then with as minimal movement as possible, gently start turning yourself around so that the opposite hip is facing your bolster setup. Arrange your legs in a way that's comfortable, and then slowly lower yourself over the bolster setup on this side. Head can look in the same direction as your knees, or away. So again, I'll give you a moment or two to set up on this side, finding comfort. That might be a slightly different position of your legs, so if you had them more stacked, they don't have to be the same on this side. Adjust your arms. Return to your breath. So if you were using that Ujjayi breathing, that ocean or sounding breath, come back to your sound. or come back to any sense of a natural, comfortable breath. So I'm moving toward the end of the chapter on tapas. This is the section on tapas and choice. A friend tells the story about leaving a partnership of 8 years. At the same time, she changed careers and moved to a new town. It was a daunting change for her. She writes, "I didn't start out with clarity that I ended with. I started out with not being able to breathe or eat. Struck with fear, anxiety, and a feeling of being frozen, I needed to find something to help me move through the intensity of my life. My partner had a similar change. He too left the partnership, began a new career, and moved to a new town. He too needed to find something to move through the intensity of this change. I found yoga and created a deep practice and did 100 sit-ups a day. He chose drinking, smoking, and promiscuous behavior. At the end of that year of transition, our outcomes were very different. I had this silent strength that felt like it was emanating from my core. He was fragmented, exhausted, and spiraling out of control." The story above is about the choices we make in and out of crisis. If we, like my friend, can choose to strengthen our inner depth rather than meditate and run, rather than medicate and run, we will find ourselves in a land of new possibility. Much like those turbulent teen years, where life has the awesome job of moving us from childhood to adulthood, the promise of a crisis is that it will pick us up and deposit us on the other side of something. Will we trust the process or will we hide from it? Each moment is an opportunity to make a clear choice of right action. Quite often, the choices that prepare us for the fire are options that vote against immediate satisfaction and pleasure. When we listen to our inner voice and surrender to staying present to the unknown, the unpleasant, and often to the grief and pain, we are preparing ourselves to benefit and be blessed by tapas. The discipline of tapas will mold us into someone of great depth and profoundness if we let it. Can we stand the heat of being dismantled and changed forever by the fire? Can we prepare ourselves daily through our practice, our staying power, and our choices? Can we stay in the burning with integrity? Can we hold on for the blessing? And as you come to the conclusion of your practice, take a few more breaths in your twist, perhaps reflecting on what that idea of tapas, that fire, might mean for you in your life right now. And then as you did on the first side, use your hands to gently walk in toward your torso. Help yourself up and come to a seated position as we conclude class together. So find a comfortable seat. If you find that you need grounding in your life right now, I suggest taking your hands down, resting down on your thighs. You can take the tip of the thumb and the first finger together in a wisdom mudra, hands down. If you find that you need to be more open to what may come, palms up, backs of the hands, resting on your thighs. Thank you for joining me in this practice. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you again. Take care, be healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day.